There are many reasons Theodore Roosevelt should be inducted into the Progressive University Hall of Fame. Throughout his life, Roosevelt has made numerous contributions to the progressive movement and proven himself a very important progressive reformer. Teddy Roosevelt was born into a rich family in New York and was educated at Harvard and Columbia Law School. Roosevelt spent a significant amount of time exploring and hunting out west, and wrote numerous books and articles depicting his adventures. When he returned to New York, he was a determined progressive reformer. At a young age, he believed in promoting public health through sanitary institutions. He believed in improving conditions for workers and in providing opportunity to all citizens and earning government positions through civil service and merit.
Theodore Roosevelt became police commissioner of New York City in 1894 and accomplished many things during his time in this position. He was able to end corruption and the accepting of bribes in the New York police force. Teddy also expanded the force and made it a more professional system by giving his officers telephones, bikes, fingerprinting, and many other important tools that significantly improved the force. TR, as he was referred to, wrote articles advocating laws that would regulate housing and make it more affordable and safe. Being a believer of preserving nature, he called for park improvements as well as the enhancement of transit for city dwellers. Teddy ran for governor of New York in 1899, and as governor made a huge impact in a short period of time. He improved civil service systems, raised teachers' salaries, and set wage and hour standards for employees working for the state and on government contracts. While in office, he also outlawed racial segregation in public schools. Roosevelt continued his improvements by placing a franchise tax on corporations that controlled public utilities. Following suit with his compassion for nature, he expanded the state's forest preserves, reformed the Fish and Game Service, established the Palisades Interstate Park, and outlawed the use of bird plumage in the manufacture of women's apparel. His position as governor was cut short when he was elected vice president under William McKinley in 1900.
Roosevelt was nominated vice president in 1900 and took over the presidency shortly after due to the assassination of President McKinley. One of his largest accomplishments was his work with the Square Deal, which focused on conservation of nature, controlling corporations, and consumer protection. To help preserve the environment, Roosevelt created the United States Forest Service to protect public lands. He often used executive orders to protect the environment and preserve natural resources, and he gained a reputation as the most conservationist president. One act passed under Roosevelt to regulate consumer products was the Pure Food and Drug Act, which required the federal government to inspect food. To control corporations, Roosevelt passed the Hepburn Act, which allowed the Interstate Commerce Commission to regulate shipping rates. He also passed the Elkins Act, which allowed the ICC to impose heavy fines on railroads that offered rebates to certain clients, also on the shippers who accepted those rebates. And when the robber barons James Hill, Edward Harriman, J.P. Morgan, and John D. Rockefeller began to form a railroad trust, Teddy Roosevelt took it to court and won in the Northern Security Company versus United States Supreme Court case, and earned the nickname Trust Buster. One great example of Roosevelt's commitment to improving working conditions was his involvement in the anthracite coal strike. Instead of responding with federal troops to suppress this strike, Roosevelt urged management to negotiate with the workers. In these negotiations, the workers received a shortened workday from 10 hours to 9 hours, and their wages increased 10%. During his presidency, Roosevelt made many contributions to the progressive movement. After his presidency, Roosevelt continued to be a huge supporter of the progressive movement. He endorsed state minimum wage laws and endorsed mother's pension. In 1912, Roosevelt ran for president and even founded the Progressive Party, also known as the Bull Moose Party. While running, he endorsed women's suffrage and many forms of modern welfare. Although he failed to win the election, he continued to support the progressive movement. Throughout his career, Roosevelt made enormous contributions to the progressive movement and absolutely meets the standards of a Progressive University Hall of Fame inductee.